So I've been thinking a lot about the relationship between variability and stability within the context of training, and trying to strike the appropriate balance between variable and stable. And to expand on that, here my definition of variable or variability is always doing something new. Novel stimulus is all the time, whether it's your exercise selection, the time of day you're training, the style of training you're doing, the speeds at which you're moving, the type of exercises you're doing, all can be highly variable every single day. And then on the other end of that spectrum, we have stability. And within stability is you're doing the same types of exercises all the time. If it's exercise selection, the timing of your exercises within the day, how long your sessions are, the qualities you're training are all similar every single day, week to week. And where you fall within the spectrum or in between those two things is going to depend highly on what your job is to do. Now, if we look at what do we get out of those two styles of training, if I'm highly variable all the time, always novel stimuluses, always new things within the gym, you're going to be highly adaptable to whatever you encounter. The downside of that is you're not going to get great at any one quality. You'll be okay or have some experience with cardiovascular system, strength, power, speed. You'll be okay with those things. Maybe you're more naturally talented at some of those things, but you won't be great at any one of those things. And on the other end of that, if you're highly stable and rigid with your training all the time, you're doing the same types of things all the time, you'll get really, really good at those types of things. But anytime you run into a novel stimulus or something that you haven't trained for, in the best case scenario, you're not going to be very good at that dealing with that novel stimulus or expressing that quality that you haven't practiced. And in the worst case scenario, you'll get injured or get hurt when you're faced with those novel stimuluses or you run into those situations. So part of the art of being a strength and conditioning coach or being an athlete who's training to do their job is striking the appropriate balance between variability and stability. You don't want to be so variable that you're just kind of okay at everything, and you don't want to be so stable and rigid that you're really good at a few things but really lacking in everything else. And the degree to which you slide one way to the other on the spectrum, I think, really depends on what your goals are and what your requirements of your job are. So say you're a power lifter and really your only job is just to pick up really, really heavy loads, then your training can be relatively stable and structured and look pretty similar week to week because you're just training to do really express one or two qualities really, really well. And on the other end of that, if you're like a field and court athlete and sometimes you have to express high speeds, sometimes you have to decelerate really rapidly, sometimes you need to express strength or express power or express flexibility or mobility, then your training needs to be a little bit more variable. But I think it is important in general to have some degree of variability in your training and some degree of stability. And if you're not in the training space and you don't think about it in the context of training, you can think about it in the context of life. If you live a lifestyle where every single day it's something new, you're always going on adventures or trying new things or doing something different every single day, well, you'll be highly adaptable to different things, but your life might be a bit chaotic and maybe your house is a mess or your room's a mess or your car's a mess. Because there's no schedule, there's no rigidity, there's no routine, and things are just floating in space all the time. Whereas if you're someone who is extremely regimented and stable and rigid with your routine, well, that's going to make you very, very efficient at getting the things done in your daily life that you need to deal with. But on the other end of that, if that's how you live your life, anytime you go on vacation or try to do something new or faced with adversity or something new or different, you're going to likely struggle to deal with that novel stimulus or that novel experience that you're not, because you don't have any adaptability. So it's a moving target for sure, and I don't think I don't know if you can ever get it perfect in the context of training, but we're trying to strike that appropriate balance of finding the balance between variability and stability.